Welcome back to another episode of Real Chums, where chatting about movies feels like hanging out with friends. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me as always is my co-host, Danny.
This week we begin to look at some of our favorite movies from a decade ago with Captain America, The Winter Soldier, directed by Joe and Anthony Russo, written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFarlane, starring Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Samuel L. Jackson, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan, Robert Redford, and many more.
Many more. In this episode, we discuss our love for fight scenes that tell stories, why Black Widow is the secret sauce of this movie, and the impact that Winter Soldier continues to have 10 years later. But before we roll that intro, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode.
Join in on the conversation by following us on YouTube at Real Chums. But with that being said, let's roll that intro. All right, question of the day.
Do you have one?
I do have one.
Okay, give me yours and then I might give you mine.
Okay, so the question I had is like, have you listened to the Trouble Man album by Marvin Gaye?
Yeah, I have. Even before this, because it's such a... I love Marvin Gaye.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I think, we've talked about, being in jazz band and growing up with, like, music and whatnot. Like, yeah, my dad listened to Marvin Gaye growing up. And so, like, I, therefore, listened to it growing up because a lot of my musical taste is based on my dad. So, yeah, no, it's a great soundtrack.
I'd never heard it. I listened to it after I watched this movie because I was like, I got to listen to this.
Uh-huh.
And then I listened to I listened to one of his newest albums, something about funk. I can't remember what the latest album, it's a more modern, but again, I have not listened to a lot of Marvin Gaye. And I have missed out. I mean, I listened to like the classics.
Right.
But like, he's my kind of music. I freaking love funk with a passion.
No, yeah. If is that me?
That's me. I don't know what's happening right now. Sorry.
This message will self-destruct in T minus. Yeah, no, it's great stuff. Look, I'm a big fan of funk, and obviously Marvin Gaye he experimented with it so much and just set a awesome standard and bar for it. No, it's great stuff.
It is, and I'm a little sad that it took me this long to listen to this album. In fact, this is the Trouble Man is a movie. Is it a movie?
That's a good question.
It felt like it was a movie because like it's a soundtrack.
You're right. From 1972. Yep.
So we're gonna put this on the docket because I feel like we have to. At some point, we will visit this movie. We should do a month. Maybe not this season, but movies in the 70s that just like that are just out there.
Oh yeah. Maybe we'll tackle like the top grossing movies of the 70s.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
We'll plan it in.
We'll think of it. If you have any suggestions on how we approach the 70s, let us know. Science fiction of the 70s would be trippy.
That would.
I mean, Star Wars obviously kind of taking the lead there, but there's other stuff. Yeah, we could do or like dramas. Yeah, let us know, listeners, and we'll put that on the docket.
Deal. What is your question?
Oh, I was going to ask you the same. I was going to go through the list of that Steve has and really ask you, like, do you think some of these are worthy to be on here?
Let's do it. Give me, because this is from his like little
his little book
like of stuff, right? He needs to look up.
Yeah, and I don't know if you knew this, but like based on where each list is different on different regions where the movie was released.
Oh.
So here's the list for United States and Canada. So North America, you have I Love Lucy, The Moon Landing, Berlin Wall, parentheses up and down, Steve Jobs, parentheses Apple, Disco Thai Food, Star Wars / Star Trek, Nirvana, Rocky, and then in parentheses, Rocky 2, question mark, And then he added Trouble Man, the soundtrack. But then, like, there's difference in, like, the UK and Ireland. It has the Sherlock, the TV show.
Okay.
It has the World Cup final from 1966. Sean Connery, and everything else stays the same. And then South Korea, you have DDR, Dance Dance Revolution. Ji-sung Park, Old Boy, the 2002 World Cup where they took place. Spain, you have a bunch of different stuff. Rafa Nadal, Chupa Chups, the 1978 Constitution, a couple other things in like Latin America. This must have been a hot topic, but Chilean miners rescue. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Maradona's Hand of God when he scored that goal.
Come on.
Shakira is another one. But yeah, I mean, it goes on through different regions. But USA, which of those would you be like,
I was like Nirvana.
That's what I was thinking. Look, don't get me wrong. I love Nirvana.
Right. They're a fantastic band. I just don't feel, I'm like, what about Nirvana makes that list? It's just because one person was like, I'm like, they already have like with, I don't know. I felt like they could have gone with maybe like a movie star or some sort of like Game of Thrones. I don't know Game of Thrones.
2014. Yeah, it was out. Wasn't season 1? I mean, you could probably, if you're gonna stick with like music, maybe I don't know, Led Zeppelin,
Van Halen. You could go Beyonce,
the Beatles. I mean, the UK one had the Beatles on there, but I don't know, Nirvana.
I don't know why. Who knows? It's okay.
But Nirvana is in every single one in all the regions. Like it.
Okay,
it's in all of them. Who is the individual in Steve Rogers' life that suggested Nirvana? Who would that have been?
I feel like Tony Stark.
Nah, I feel like Tony Stark would have been like, yeah, no, AC/DC, man. Because he loves his AC/DC.
Of course.
Probably Bruce Banner.
No, Bruce Banner. No. Bruce Banner is too caught up in other stuff.
No, imagine Bruce Banner being a moody scientist in college in the 90s. Nirvana was his jam.
You're right. Okay. Oh, you sold me.
Well, it was done. Bruce Banner who suggested Nirvana for him.
Well done. I'm glad that we had the same idea that we should touch on this little nugget from the film. All right. Well, we got this movie it's fond of my heart. So I don't know if we need to do a recap of this film, but should we do it anyways?
In case you haven't seen this movie, this is Captain America post Avengers, right? When Steve Rogers has to adapt in this new world after being in frozen animation for several decades. He is now a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is partnered with Black Widow, and now they have to battle a threat that will make them question who they work with, who they work for, and yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, the Winter Soldier, who is then revealed to be Bucky, makes an appearance.
Way to freaking spoiler alert. This is post my mission.
Okay. Post your blip.
Post my blip. And so for me, this was like, I think one of the first movies that ended up like bigger movies that I got, like, it was like, I was like really excited for. I think part of it was like, I think from the trailer to watching it in theaters, from the beginning of watching the trailer, I was like, this movie feels different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it was like the Russo brothers were big. They were, they have a flavor to their films, particularly when it comes to action. And I am here for it. I really enjoy the Russo brothers. There's something about them, the way they like to communicate visual language and how they tell stories that just resonates with me. Mm-hmm. And I think that this movie, just like watching it in theaters, was one of the best experiences of my entire life. Honestly,
Really?
I remember just experiencing the ups and downs of this film on the big screen and witnessing like what this felt like, the fight scenes, feeling like I was actually watching something that I've wanted for like from a Marvel film for so long, like seeing Captain America be Captain America, the most Captain America I think we get in any other film.
Did you enjoy the first one, the first Avenger, Captain America, the first Avenger?
Not at all.
Really? Okay. Why?
I think part of it was that like, okay, so my initial watch of the first Avenger, I did not like it at all.
Okay.
Which wasn't. I think part of it was just like I felt too too cheesy or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I felt like the Red Skull's animation stuff. There was some like quirky stuff in my initial watches that I was like, I don't love this.
Yeah.
And I just really loved Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk, like the Hulk. Those are my two like out of OG stuff. Mm-hmm. Those are like the two films that I like. I will watch over and over again.
Yeah.
I will say though that in recent years, when I've gone back to like I rewatched the whole everything once the blip after Endgame came out. I rewatched everything chronologically in like the universe, like how
okay,
like,
in the universe. Yeah.
so like not like how they were released, but like in how like the timelines of stuff. And I remember rewatching Captain America, the first Avenger, and I remember thinking this is better than I remembered.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that like that's one of the ones that I think that like as I've like rewatched other films from the series and I come back to watch it, I have bigger appreciations for where he came from and what does it mean to have this character in this universe?
Yeah.
In overall, right? In fact, it was because of that I ended up reading quite a few different runs of Captain America, Steve Rogers, as well as Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson. Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, so
okay.
yeah.
So great. I love my experience with this movie. I saw it in theaters. Absolutely loved the trailer for it. I was very excited that they were bringing in the Winter Soldier because we saw Bucky right in the first one fall, and we don't really see him die, and so I was excited for the idea of the Winter Soldier being in here. I remember though, like the whole big reveal that SHIELD is just a front for Hydra, and that they take it down. They right. I was just like
destroyed.
I was like, wow, we went there. Like, that's awesome. Like, I didn't think the MCU would at this point was willing to make those kinds of risks, right? And so like from a story perspective, I was surprised, which I love that because this is phase 2 of the MCU. We're right in between Avengers 1 and Avengers 2, and I think the movie that came out after this was Guardians of the Galaxy. So the first. Our first take into being out in outer space, and so like this is that time where like the MCU's taking risks and in directors in storylines, and it's just like, yeah, I'm all for it. The fact that they went with the Russo brothers, who this is their first directorial debut movie.
That's correct,
right?
That's I think that was the thing that like had me like really intrigued. And it was and the fact that like I remember the hype for this was like, look, this is not in like other Marvel movies. Like there was a lot of practical use. There's a lot of like hand-to-hand combat. There's a lot of like up close and personal like moments that like we don't get much of in other, like we do get moments, but not to the level I think that like some that we feel in this film particularly.
Yes, and I think it's so great because I mean they were big with the TV show Community, right? And for them to go from that to directing this, I think it's just, I cannot iterate the awesome approach that they brought to this story, to the character, and the resources that they had as filmmakers to really give us a powerful, impactful movie that now, as we're looking at it 10 years later, it still holds up very well.
Completely well. I have one gripe.
Tell me.
The one gripe I have is I feel like this watch, I feel there's, and I don't know if this is something that happened, like they've done this recently or not. I feel there are a couple moments from Steve with Chris Evans as Steve Rogers where they like overdid his youth. They like tried to make him look younger or something. Like I just feel like his face was like CG'd. Like they had made some correction. I was streaming this on Disney, and so I'm like, I don't remember this. I don't remember feeling like Steve looks like this is like he looks a little too young, or like they're doing something with his face.
Really,
and I don't know. This is my current, like my watch. I don't know if this is like something new. I don't know if like it's always been like that, and maybe I just like I'm noticing it this time. But there's something about a couple scenes in throughout the film, and I should have noted them, but like of just noticing that I felt like something's happening with Chris Evans' face.
Yeah.
That I feel like maybe they're like de-aging him or something, or maybe cleaning up stubble. Like I don't know, but it just doesn't look natural.
I didn't catch that. Might have to go back and rewatch it and see if I can catch it.
I'll probably rewatch it to like jot down some points so that I can maybe put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
But in any case, like that was like the one thing. But like other than that, like I have no real like.
I think the only like slight issue I have, one or two, but like the final like act with them on the helicarriers, and I know the whole movie's leading up to this idea that the helicarriers are going to kill 25 million people around the world, right? But like I don't know. Sometimes after having such strong fight sequences, hand-to-hand combat, in on the street, the overpass scene, right? And then to all of a sudden have like Captain America like jumping off of a helicarrier and Sam Wilson coming picking him up, like it's a very jarring and like complete other side of the spectrum for like the action that we had. It's fine, but I think it stood out more to me this time, where I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that there is like these massive helicarriers falling in the sky and they're jumping from one to the other. Like,
it's funny you just break this up. I wasn't unhappy with that sequence. Part of it because I freaking love Falcon.
Yeah.
Falcon has been one of my freaking heroes for a long, long time.
Okay.
And so I'm excited to talk about it a little bit. But I actually think it's an editing issue. I think the pacing of how they went about editing this sequence is a little rough. Maybe not rough is maybe not the right word. Maybe they were under the gun. Maybe they're trying to finish something up. Maybe just like whatever. But I think I think that there are moments where it becomes like you are thrown to another character, and then you have to come back to this scene, and so you're like the rhythm of things is lost.
Yeah, because I mean, you're cutting back between Steve Rogers, right, who's on the helicarriers and trying to get inside. You're cutting to Sam, who's detracting the attention, and he's flying around. You are then also cutting to Black Widow, who's inside the base with Pierce and trying to like stop the helicarriers, right? And the idea is that they have to go to each helicarrier, put in that little chip to override the command. And so like, yeah, I think it's a little bit scattered.
Well, you don't, not only that, but you've got what's the female? I forget. She's in every single film.
Black Widow?
No, Black Widow.
Oh, Maria Hill?
Yeah. So you have Hill, who's commanding. Then you have the agent on the floor.
Yeah.
Who is dealing with the fact that like they're being told to like continue going forward and hunt down or like continue with stuff, and then like with a Mexican standoff, and then you've got and then when you're cutting through as the sequence progresses, things like other things happen, and like it's almost like they wanted to do other things with like Sam Wilson and Romolo.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's a little moment there, but then it just cuts, and then also when we get to a later part, and like that feels like a whole another cut that could have been like that they maybe deleted scene of a fight or whatever. I just feel like maybe a little bit of a like maybe pacing is the proper term for the situation, but overall I still really enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. Let's jump into where do you want to start off with this?
That's a good question. There's so many starting points. Can I just start off with the overall feel of this film?
Yes.
What is it that makes this film great when it comes to like the overall like feeling of it?
I think, and you brought this up with the first movie. So the first movie was directed by Joe Johnston, famous for The Rocketeer, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, October Sky. And Joe Johnston, he's great at like doing very heartfelt, sincere movies, right? Like, oh, we're all bought into this. And that's what that first one is. Yes, there are moments of like cheesiness, and it's just a little bit too much cheese for me, right?
So you don't like it as well?
It's not that I don't like. I like it, but because I went into that movie knowing, oh, the Rocketeer guy is directing this. Interesting, right? And his style of directing fits that way that movie was done. Like even from like a set design, like everything, it feels like a Joe Johnston movie, and that's fine. That's great.
Yeah. And
then you come to this, where you have this element of espionage, of deceit constantly, and it just you constantly have this feeling of something's not right. Excuse me. Starting with Fury saying that Shield has been compromised and he can't access certain files because they've been put on hold supposedly by himself, right? And so like something is off, and we hadn't seen that up to this point, right? And it's so great because this movie really has an impact for the rest of that Infinity Saga.
You know what? I think this is why I think I love this film. Because in fact, this was actually the question that I wanted to I was thinking maybe I wanted to do, but I think I wanted to discuss this. Watching this film now, I kind of want to, I want to subvert the way that people have like traditionally watched these films. You do like, people go chronologically, and then there's other people who do like when they release. I think I want to come back and revisit and remap a new story arc, because I think that Winter Soldier should come like Captain America's or the first Avenger should come after Winter Soldier. We get introduced, like we find a way that we have, maybe we just do the regular movies without that first Captain America, and then you do Avengers, and you cut to this one, and then after this one you come to the first Avenger. Because there's so many like moments that they reference that movie, right, and the things that there, but he's so troubled. Like Chris Evans, kudos to him, and because of the way the Russo brothers direct, and the way with the costuming, with the way that went about with Hydra, like seeing this be such a big impact, to have it then kind of like cut back to the first Avenger right after this, like I was going to watch this again.
Yeah.
To go back to the Avengers after Winter Soldier, to say why?
Yes,
would be like such a, it to me, my mind was like, oh, that's what I want. I want to see him in action. I want to see him doing his thing, and then come back to realization that like he's just a guy from Brooklyn.
Yeah. No, here's the thing though. Like this, I think we can all agree the Captain America trilogy is the best of the MCU. I was
going to bring this up,
and I think it's because of this. You have Joe Johnston, who directed the first one, a movie about heart and this guy who will always do the right thing, and hip hip hooray for America, right? And all that beautifulness that makes up that first Captain America. And then you go to this, two different directors who approach it in a very like concise story about the use of national security, of people's rights, of conspiracy, right? And now you have a Steve Rogers who is now like double guessing everything, right? I think that I wrote down one of the lines that I just love. He what's his face? Fury's showing him the helicarriers. He's showing him this new plan of having them go up and this algorithm. And he just says something along the lines of like, we're gonna catch all these villains and all these bad people. And he says, I thought the punishment came after the crime.
But he also says we'll be able to neutralize a lot of threats. And then by holding a gun to everyone's head.
Yeah. So you have this Captain America who could do this all day, right? Fight for America, jump in front of a bomb, and now he's saying, am I jumping in front of a bomb for the right people? I love, and again, we've talked about this with the MCU. You are now putting your character on this path that'll make him question, that'll make him doubt, but it's an opportunity for this character to then grow.
Yes, like to me, this film is just not only grow, but like how is like this is why I'm like, as I watch this film, like the introduction of the Winter Soldier. One, the Winter Soldier's a badass.
Yeah,
Captain America is a freaking badass. Like both these characters are these elite athletes.
Yeah,
these
super soldiers, right?
Yeah, super soldiers, right? They do what others cannot, and like everybody has chased this specimens for years and years in the Marvel cinematic, in the Marvel period.
Yeah,
right. And I think that like the depiction of this film of having Steve relive, go to specific locations and trying to come to terms with like why he decided to do what he does is something that I think just truly does, like you said, it opens him up to grow. Something that I think they've forgotten. We've talked about this. I think they've forgotten to like do these moments. I think Captain Iron Man 3 does something very similar.
Yeah.
Check out our episode on that. Like I have it in a reset of saying we need something to go for. Now the difference is that Iron Man 3 was the final. This one is the second one in the trilogy. We get the third one, which is like another Avengers movie, but then we then get a bigger payoff as we see it progress throughout the MCU.
Yes. And I think that you hit it right on the head. I think this is what's been missing recently is and Guardians of the Galaxy did great. And I think a lot of that is because James Gunn owned that from the writing to the directing, right? But like we've been missing that from the MCU is how can we take these moments to really focus on the characters, their challenges, and put them on a path to then grow, to then be super, so to speak, emotionally and in a dramatic way. And this movie does that perfectly. And you have these moments to challenge and make him doubt. I like your approach of watching this and then going back to Captain America, or to the first Captain America. But like, I would say no, because again, you have this goody boy from Brooklyn, right? But then you immediately jump into this, and something's happened to him, right? And I like to think in my head canon is that, after he gets pulled out of Frozen animation, right, to go fight in the first Avengers movie, and then he has spent these last 2-3 years just as he even says, I'm tired of being Fury's janitor. Like he's now being trained as a spy, okay, under S.H.I.E.L.D., and he's just going out doing these missions, and now he's become kind of cynical and like, what am I doing? Before we were fighting for freedom against Nazis, against this Hydra organization, what am I doing now? And it's just, I love that we don't see that, but we get it based on where we are with Steve Rogers at this point. And then you have those interactions with Sam Wilson, who did 2 tours, right? And he's become hurt. He's emotionally out of touch, not out of touch, but just emotionally distraught because his partner died, and now he couldn't do anymore. And now he's helping VAs. He's in the VAs, and so like you have this individual who was like, yeah, Captain Rogers, I will do anything to fight for my country, whatever that may be. And Sam, who's now like, yeah, like war comes at a price. And now Captain America has these opportunities to engage and now start doubting. And here's where I want to kind of talk into next. The character of Black Widow, so powerful in this movie.
I think that without Black Widow, this movie would not be what it is.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson, like, I truly am sad that we took so long to get to a Black Widow's movie.
Oh my gosh!
And even with the Black Widow's movie, I don't think that's not the Black Widow movie we deserved. Yep. In fact, I would have loved to have seen a version out there in a different alternate universe where the Russo brothers directed the Black Widow's movie.
No, that would have been awesome. Actually, that would have been really good. Yeah.
To me, Scarlett Johansson she's on this other end. She's battling. Obviously, this movie is about Captain America, but the Black, Natasha, her whole life, up until from what we know in this universe, in this world, is her trying to redeem her past sins, through Shield, right? And having the only person that trusted her be killed, and then finding out that he doesn't, and then finding out, not even greater, that she's gonna have to go and like air the dirty laundry of this entire organization, including hers, is a big deal. And having the ramifications of what that could be play to that, but having her play this like, this is just another day in paradise, of like understanding what her job, her role is where Captain America was being put into, and him struggling to battle that job, this janitorial / compartmentalized, like just know what you need to know. Like I wrote down the line, I only act like I know everything.
Yeah. It's great because this is a character who she is the one that like starts planting these doubts into Steve, right? They're on this mission at the base, and she's supposed to help rescue the hostages, and she's off pulling data from the hard drive to like, oh no, this was my mission.
Yeah,
and then that's where like Steve just gets really upset, right? Like, what is happening? And then has that little interaction with Fury right after. But like her character, right? And I think there's a line she says, I just traded my USSR uniform for Hydra's, right?
So emotionally driven there.
Yeah, and it's this path that now, what's his name, that Steve is on. He basically just is continuing to fight the fight against Hydra, but he's doing it in a way that's making him question everything, right? With Shield being a front for Hydra. It's just, I really, really love the characterization and how Scarlett played Natasha in this movie. It is just, you as a viewer are constantly doubting her. You aren't sure if you should trust her and Nick, right? And for her to then have that growth and come to that realization, and then be that support for Steve Rogers, she is great. I'm glad that they put her in this movie.
Absolutely. Some of the best moments in the film, I think, are when Chris Evans and her, like, they have. I remember, like, when this first came out, I was like thinking, man, I was shipping them hard.
I still ship them, man. Like, I still do. You know what? I ship everyone with Chris Evans. I'll be honest.
Ain't that the truth, bro?
Maybe I just have a little man crush on Chris Evans.
There's
Dude, who
like
doesn't, man?
yeah, who doesn't, man? The guy's freaking shoulders are yoked.
Dude, and when we saw him in when we did Knives Out and his little sweater, high neck sweater, like I'm just saying.
Oh, Marcel.
No, but him and Peggy Carter in this movie breaks my heart every
breaks
time.
my heart.
Oh, when she realizes that he's there after they just had a full conversation, that just hits me.
I think this is, but again, I think these are the things that were like these moments. This is why Guardians of the Galaxy, we have Rocket. Rocket is facing these similar questions of existentialness for himself, right? And these were the moments that we've come to love from these films. It's in between. We've said this before, right? Look, give us an actual meat and potatoes, or like dessert, but give the cherry on top of all the superhero stuff.
And it's again the decision to have had the Russo brothers do Endgame and Infinity War was great. Good job, Kevin Feige. Like, I'll give you credit for that. Like, because they planted the seeds for these payoffs later, right? And I think often we give a lot of credit and huge credit to the character of Tony Stark and Iron Man, like being the first movie that kind of kicked this off. But a lot of the emotional impact that we have in the Infinity Saga comes from Captain America, and especially what happens here, because Civil War is just that fact that they start fighting each other, they have to pick sides. It all kind of starts coming from here, and the fact I think in that movie, Steve Rogers says something along the lines of like, they're the only hands that they should trust, right? Because of what happens here. And then that division leads them to Infinity War, and then that reunion again in Endgame. It's just,
you're right. No, there's something. I don't know. I just love this movie. Every time I watch it, I appreciate it more. And I think what I appreciate more is the character of Steve Rogers and Captain America, right? That throughout, and as we watch the films, his willingness to bring up his voice, to question because of this moment, is what brings so many moments in the film to give us the payoffs that we love.
yeah.
Right? Again, like you said, Civil War, he's still looking for Bucky. He wants to find his friend and be there, but also that there should be the checks and balances there's a level that needs to happen. Right? Just so many things. I think I want to talk a little bit about Sebastian, right? Is that,
Sebastian Stan?
Yeah, Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier. Him complimenting, Steve just is just top notch. I don't think it would. I don't. Like him having to play this ruthless killer who follows orders, but then his mind is so broken, and the scene where they're resetting him, we get Pierce coming in. I think the introduction of Pierce and who he really is with the Winter Soldier, so good.
It's I think this movie, maybe this is the other issue that I have with it, is that I'm always left with wanting more of the Winter Soldier.
Yes.
Right? Like, because he's barely in it, it seems like, even though the movie's called The Winter Soldier. But like, I'm always left wanting more. And we get that in the third one, in Civil War. That whole movie really focuses on their friendship and trying to clear his name. But he is really great in this. And he has, 6 lines of dialogue, maybe? Hardly anything. But his ability to like really show emotion through his eyes.
Dude, the freaking eyes. I think just the scene that I think that nails it the most is when he has to do the reset with that Pierce that I was talking about. He's like, okay, well, let's wipe him, start over. And he just opens his mouth, takes the mouth bit, and just takes it, and his eyes are just locked.
Yeah.
They're just, he's locked. He knows what's coming, but he's still like, he just accepts.
And maybe we'll talk about, now I really want to watch Civil War.
Facts.
But like he just enhances that performance in the next one, right? And even more so in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Did you like that?
I really like that one. I know a lot of people didn't.
I loved it.
I thought it was great. It was a great like callback to the Russo movies. I really enjoy that one.
Okay.
I want to talk a little bit about Robert Redford.
Yes.
What do you think of that character of Alexander Pierce? Do you have any issues with it? I have a couple issues, but I'm glad he's in it.
Oh, I'm glad with he's in it. I want to hear your issues.
I feel like it wasn't well fleshed out.
Okay, that's I think where I'm landing, especially as we discuss and I think about like things go. I think this is a little bit of what we feel in this third act. I don't think the seeds of Pierce being like the whole idea was that we don't know who's Hydra.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, right? But as we start to understand the puzzle, we get to learn about Pierce with the Winter Soldier, but we don't like having him. I don't know, be the big mastermind. Mm-hmm. I felt like there's lacking.
Yeah, I mean it's a very intriguing character, right? Who is friends with Fury, saved them in that mission in Bogota, was it?
I believe it was Bogota.
Whatever, by going against orders, right? I think I just kind of would have liked to have seen like his whole, and maybe I need to rewatch it again, but his whole idea of wanting to implement this program is because you have to do some, sacrifice the greater good, sacrifice for the greater good. In this case, we're going to kill 25 million possibly bad people in order to maintain peace, right? And his whole thing is that's what Hydra stands for, and in a way, that's what you Shield were based on, right? You will do what you need to do to maintain peace. We're just going about it differently, right? I think I wanted more of his, of why he became this individual, rather than that story just doesn't quite do it for me.
Yeah, I feel like the fact that like because Fury went behind his back and still did what he did to do it, that him seeing like the big picture of saying this is the type of leadership that we need in this country, and then going to Hydra, like,
well, that's the thing. When did he become indoctrinated into Hydra? Right?
I don't think my understanding is that like he ends up finding Hydra after Bogota.
Interesting. I think that's just, there was a lot of exposition and talking from his characterization that I would have loved to have it shown.
I agree. Especially with Pierce being played by Robert Redford, is phenomenal. I think his character, him playing a senator, playing this role who comes on to deal with these leaders and have to deal with this thing. There's a level of me that as we talk, I'm thinking through that. I'm like, was this specific obstacle or this end, like the third act, was it like too big for what they were trying to accomplish in this time frame?
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think, again, all of the action sequences, which we'll talk in a second about, land really well. I think just that final sequence maybe I see what they were trying to do, right? But maybe it was just too big for what they were wanting to accomplish. Yeah, I think you're right.
Not that it doesn't work.
No.
But like when we talk about this and what happens, I think that there's a little like it feels rushed towards the end of the third act. There's also like why we don't fully understand Pierce's motives other than he wants a better world and he feels like Hydra can take it. It can provides that.
Yeah.
Or something, like that's a big thing. I will say one thing on the Hydra portion is that like I'm grateful that they decided to go to make Shield Hydra. I think that it really does. It really fractures. It really resets. And I think what it comes down to is I think that this movie really causing the falling out of this movie really sets the tone for a reset to like allow other individuals to grow throughout the rest of the MCU. We get the Guardians of the Galaxy introduction, so we have a new sort of like, okay, a new fresh starting point there. But as all these other movies come out, obviously Thor, the second Thor came out at this time period, which was a little bit rough.
Dark World?
But maybe, I can't remember. I think it was rough.
I like that one. It did get a lot of heat when it came out, but I always liked it.
I think I've only seen it.
And I feel like it's gotten.
Twice.
I feel like it's gotten more love since Endgame because, right? They go back in time with Thor, and a lot of where he goes back in time to is between that or what happened in that second movie. But yeah, I always like that one. But no, to your point, I think this is the movie that sets the stage for the rest of the Infinity Saga, for what we're going to experience up until Endgame.
Which is, I think, yeah, it's just great. All right, let's dive into. Which costume?
Oh, the stealth costume by far, the dark one with the navy blue, and you can barely see it. It's like heavily inspired from the Ultimate series. Yeah, that one.
So good. It's freaking phenomenal. I will say, Chris Evans and George St. Pierre's freaking fight.
Oh, okay.
The whole bite fight, the boat, him coming in, dropping down, and like going full Captain America on this sequence is by far one of my favorite intros to Marvel.
With Batroc, right? Yeah. That's my favorite fight sequence in all of the MCU.
It is truly amazing.
I remember seeing that in the theaters, and when he lands and he just starts throwing the shield, there's the first guy that he throws and hits him in the face. I'm like, that guy is dead, like dead. All of these people that Captain America is hitting with the shield, they're all dead. And I remember being like, oh, we're going there, like we're gonna do this. Like this is a darker tone. I think it's so crucial for that first fight sequence on the boat to really set the tone for the rest of the movie, right? This is a different Captain America. Like this guy, he's trained better than he was in the first time and in the first movie and even in Avengers. And now like he's ruthless.
Like he's come into his own. He knows how to operate. I think the other thing is that like it's a different battle. Like it's different battles. Like in a war, you had a whole bunch of stuff happening, so he could just go in and be able to like go do what he needed to do because there's other things happening. In a situation like this, he's stealth. He has to go in. He's got to go and operate quickly. Otherwise, like people's lives are in danger. So he's got to be ruthless. He's got to be quick. He's got to be efficient.
And in that fight scene with Batroc, like you mentioned, it is so good. That kick where he takes him out at the end, just the spins in the air and just, I can't even like, it's so good. It's so good. It is so good.
And in Civil War, I often will watch this one and Civil War together because they feel so good.
Yeah.
One thing that I truly appreciate. So I don't know if you watch. I'll leave a link in the description. Have you watched the Corridor Digital? They took the scene in Civil War at the beginning where they have a fight scene, and they turned it rated R.
Oh, really? I haven't seen this.
Maybe we'll watch it after this because it's just a freaking hoot. They just because literally this piece of metal that can with vibranium that is the strongest thing, throwing it at a person that would not just like hit them and rock them, it would like completely decapitate them.
There was one I was like, wait, did he get decapitated? I couldn't quite see it, but no, I love it. And it, like I said, it sets the tone for the rest of the movie. That underpass fight sequence, when it's him and Bucky shows up, right? And you have Black Widow and they're all kind of running around. That one is just so awesome. Like, just I love I think that's a perfect action sequence where you have multiple characters, and they're all kind of covering for each other, and you have all these explosions happening. Civilians are at risk, and it kind of scales down to just hand-to-hand combat, and then they get caught, right? They get arrested there at the very end.
Bro, that is the best. I think that's my favorite. Like,
is it okay?
Of all fight scenes in the MCU, of like, I think one of the I don't know. Just there's something about the way it all just plays out, like from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. From beginning to end, that fight scene has such a wonderful story. Like there, we get the Winter Soldier. We have them they have the little moment right in the car, and then they get rammed. They're fighting them from moving to this like Winter Soldier getting pissed at the Black Widow, and having just the moments and like it just lands because they did most of that practical. Mm-hmm. They transitioning that into that hand-to-hand fight sequence with Captain America. Like, he's like, crap. He's like, I'm actually like, I have to put up a good, like, this guy is no joke. And then like the handwork, with the knife. Oh, just. Oh my gosh, it's so good. Just like I'm like, it's so good. The choreography in this is literally so beautiful. It like John Wick has this same feel with guns. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say I think that this is still some sequence. This sequence right here is still is better than some John Wick stuff, because of the like intimate, like this intimate feeling of old schoolness. I don't know. The like, I'm gonna duke it out with fists and a knife, and I'm gonna do what I can, and like them being super soldiers.
Yes, I think that's what it is, because everyone's human, right? And so he's been able to really take out all these adversaries, so to speak. But when the Winter Soldier comes in and like really puts up a fight, like now we're seeing these two super powered individuals just go at it, and it just works really well. And like kudos to like the stunt team to like really choreograph these sequences and highlight the strength that they have, but also like how up to par they are towards each other, right? And then just how that dynamic goes and works. And you're telling a story in this case about these characters through the fight sequences.
Because like you said, like the ending of this fight is like I just truly love, like Captain America, he's stabbed at this point. He then goes full force, goes and does a crazy grab and flips him over. He loses the mask. Stan loses the mask, and as Bucky lands, and when Captain America comes back up, he recognizes his friend, and he had been missing him. Like, he goes back to me. It's like the payoff for this moment is so amazing, because he'd already been, he had the moment of him thinking about of him talking to him at the front door after his parents' funeral.
Yeah.
Right. He'd gone to the museum. He's like remembering that he lost it. And this is where like I think some of these moments of like, I know that Captain America is like having that start and then go to this one is like something key. But when I think about watching this in entirety, going from the Avengers to Winter Soldier and then going to like a flashback to seeing where he came from, and what he was feels so good to me.
Yeah.
It's from this sequence with Steve Rogers kind of trying to figure things out, and the person he would want to figure things out with is with Bucky.
Yes. Just such a great movie in every aspect. What's your favorite overall scene in this?
I think I have there. This is a tough one. I think I really love the kind of the slowdown period with Widow and Steve. And I really love this fight scene. I think I'm a little torn on those two because one is a little bit more, one's action driven, emotional. One's like emotionally driven for, that's way more, right? He's on the run. He has to do it. He's working with Widow. He doesn't know if he can fully trust her. But she's the one that's there and is like, they have these back and forth quips of her using comment or like sarcastic comments to like
cope with the situation, right? Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I just love the boat scene. I do. I think I remember very vividly watching that in theaters, and I was just again when he throws that first shield, I was just like, oh, okay, that guy amazing. Is dead.
It's like one of my favorite moments,
and it sets the tone for the rest of the movie, from like the screenplay, from the themes to the choreography. I just love that first sequence, and they nailed it really well, and it was just perfect. I love that first sequence.
I just want to say real quick, Sam Wilson. I think I love the Falcon. He's so cool.
Yeah,
I think his suit is just the fact that he like single-handedly takes on these 3 helicarriers. They're supposed to kill like bajillion people with this awesome suit, and we get our first glimpse here. He's cooler in Civil War. Yeah. I mean, there's a little bit more like nuanced stuff that we happen there. That's one thing I would say. Like when it came to the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that I missed a little bit more. I wanted a little bit more fighting from both of them in the Winter Soldier, but I really loved the tone, and I'm sad that I'm sad we're not going to get a second season of that.
No, but I mean, we have the new Captain America movie coming out next year, which just this week it's going in for its 4th reshoot or 5th, I think.
Yeah.
This movie has had a lot of reshoots. They keep saying that they're going back to what the Winter Soldier was like, the same style of filmmaking and story. I don't know if they're just saying that to like get us all hyped again. They probably are, but like I really hope so. I am very concerned for this movie.
I'm very concerned for this movie as well.
But I hope they land it. I hope it hits and it lands well.
Me too, because I would really, really appreciate it. Because like rewatching this just truly, it just I think, like you said, I think Iron Man sets the tone for like that. Oh, I wanted superheroes. This movie sets the tone that I want the conflict of the conflict and the growth that this becomes, that culminates both Iron Man's arc with Captain America's arc to Endgame. This is why we love the MCU.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And again, looking back at this, as we look at these movies, again, we're doing a whole month of looking at movies that came out 10 years ago. What it'll be fun to see, like, does it still hold up? Does it not? What is it that holds up? What doesn't? And in this case for the MCU, what techniques or aspects that do hold up can the MCU take on into this new decade, right? And I think for me, this practical use of fight sequences and really scaling down should be implemented more. Like let's stay away from like the big, massive third acts where it's just so much chaos happening. I'm looking at you freaking in Secret Invasion, right? Like that final fight sequence in that show was just bonkers. And then like really focusing on telling a story where we put these characters, at least for the MCU, on a trajectory that'll challenge them, that'll make them grow, but it'll give them an opportunity for us to really cheer them on. And I feel like that's what's been missing. It completely missed the mark in Ant-Man, Quantumania. But that's what we need to get back into.
I think some things that I think that this movie does super well is in reference to the MCU specifically. I think, like you said, I think the practical, a little bit more practical. I don't necessarily think. Wouldn't say there. I think meaningful. Like if we're gonna have a fight scene, can we make it meaningful, not just flashy? Is it motivating? Like obviously there has to be fights because there's like elaborate stuff or whatever. But there are times where like if you're gonna have a solo film, like is there gonna be story told within this fight that takes us to that next, like the next movement for the story, not just this is a fight scene that we have to move on.
Yeah.
The other thing is that I think that we could also learn is that like if you have some people that have good story, like directors or whatever, like allow them to do another film. I think like we got they did phenomenal. The Russo brothers did this. They went on to do the Endgame, and the last two movies. We have James Gunn doing all of Guardians of the Galaxy. If you find a director that like resonates with the character or with the thing, like let that happen. Let it be. Like don't feel like you need to like do a new director every single time or something, or find some other way to like leverage them, maybe not with the same character but with a different IP of some kind when it comes to Disney specific.
Yeah, I think and we always come back to Ant-Man, but like Peyton Reed was brought in last minute because Edgar Wright dropped out of the first Ant-Man, but he finished that trilogy. I think that movie, especially the third one, would have benefited from a different director. I actually think all three Ant-Mans would have benefited from a different director each time, because it's a quirky character that it would have been great to have someone come in every time and just been like, here's my take on it. Boom, let's move on to the next thing. And then someone else come in and be like, all right, I'm building on this. Here's my different take on it. I think Ant-Man would have benefited from different directors, but great stuff, man. This movie really holds up. I'm glad we revisited it.
Me too. I solidified my love again, just for like this era of these beloved characters and series is why so many people love and have opened up and said, this is now what I want. It's also a little bit of a blessing, like a curse to some degree, but I'm just happy that we have them.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we'd love it if you could subscribe on whatever platform you get your podcasts. It would be great if you could leave a review, because it does help us get discovered. Otherwise, you can subscribe to us on YouTube, because we have a whole bunch of additional content there.
More importantly, we want to hear from you. What did you think of Captain America: The Winter Soldier? What did we miss? What are your highlights from this movie? You can always connect with us in the comments below, or feel free to email us at your@realchums.com. You can find me on Twitter at Marstrosity, MARCTROSITY.
And I'm at Rubio_TV. Join us next week as we revisit the 2014 movie, The Edge of Tomorrow.
This is going to be a good one, because this movie did not do well, but everyone loves it.
It is well loved.
And we took too long. We're never going to get a sequel, but I would love for one.
Okay. We'll talk about it next week.
See you there.